Welcome to Mendezville Live, with something to talk about. Here is Rudy Mendez.
Let's, hello, Facebook Live. Here we go. Today we are talking a little bit about politics, school board, things of that nature. Today's broadcast has been brought to you by Rudy Mendez, forlife.com/Rudy Mendez. And of course, your Mendez Sports Training upper right corner logo. Cool, cool, cool. So without further ado, let me just take these banners out of the way. I'm still learning as I go, right? And let me remove this one here. There you go. All right, Mendezville Live. Today we're talking about school board. Today we're going to be talking about politics, points of view, different scenarios. We're going to be comparing I have a lot of questions about Mendezville ISD. And Mendezville ISD is a lot of things that go on in my mind on how I would do things as a school board member. Granted, I don't. There's no funds. I have no cap. These are just ideas. But I'm gonna bring in a guest who has some experience with that. He is a UTSA alumni, Go Road Runners, and is currently a school board member for McAllen ISD. Welcome, Marco Suarez. What's going on, Marco Suarez?
Hey, Rudy. How you doing, man? Thanks for having
me. Let me see your road runner, man.
Hey, Papa. There it is.
Hey, I would first and foremost, before we start and get into the conversation, I want to congratulate you on your Region 1 School Board of the Year. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great. It's great for the community of McAllen, and as not only did we win the have that honor, but we also had our superintendent get the Superintendent of the Year in Region 1. And that's really unheard of to see the superintendent and the school board get it at the same time. But it just shows what happens when the community rallies around the school district, the teachers, the custodians, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers. Everybody plays a role in having a successful district. So we're very fortunate.
Nice, man. Nice. I know like when I put up my Mendezville stuff and ISD, these are just ideas, but I'm sure my hat's off to every school board member in the whole valley and the whole state. I mean, I'm sure you guys go through a lot of stressful times and things of that, no?
It's stressful, Rudy, but I think when you see students succeed, we don't get paid to do this, right? So you do it because you want to serve your community and you want to play an integral role in every kid's life. Every kid is so different, and when you manage decisions that impact 21, 22, 23,000 kids, it's never an easy decision, and someone's always upset, right? If you make a yes or no decision, there's someone that's going to be upset no matter what.
Yeah, you remind me when things like that happen is I referee, and I'm sure one of the school board members is referee. What's his name?
Conrado, yeah.
Yeah, and great guy, man. I've gone to officiate with him, and it's when you're refereeing basketball, and almost anywhere you ref, it's half of the crowd is happy with you. You're correct 100%.
No doubt.
And the other half or the other side of the gym is you're totally wrong. So I can only imagine with, a bunch of, the whole district and stuff like that. Hey, so Marco's Burgers, I heard you sold that or you're still on that? What's going on there?
I did. So Marco's Burgers was sold to my niece, Clarissa, which is one of my brother's daughters. About 3 years ago, I suffered a stroke.
Oh, man.
And,
sorry to hear.
No, I was blessed.
Okay, you look great.
Good, man. My new haircut, and no, I've been blessed. I've dropped a lot of weight, and she's done a real good job with it. And it's still called Marco's, and it's still the same recipes and the same customer service, but now it's under new ownership. So
okay, cool, man, cool. So then you sell that, and then you're working. What are you doing now?
So now I work for South Texas. Well, it's actually called Hidalgo County EMS, and we also deal with aviation part of it. We do a lot of flights and helicopters. We transport people. So it's
like ambulances or what?
South Texas Airmen. Yes, sir.
Oh man, me and you can go on a good hour of
That'll be another
the
side.
the ambulances and politics that are going on in your neighboring community. But we will not talk about that today. We want to talk about school boards and see my biggest thing is like I always tell people is it's about learning perspectives, understanding from all sides, from the school board side, me as a coach, from the coaching side, from the parent side. And like you said, not everyone's gonna be happy, but I'm assuming we're always trying to do our best. So how did that go when you got? I guess the biggest thing that is in my mind right now, because there's school board races going on here in the next few months, right? Is at what point do you say, or what goes through your mind, say, you know what, I need to run for school board? How does that go in your mind? What triggers it?
Well, everybody's different, right? So let me tell you what happened with me. My family is not involved in politics, right? We're in the restaurant business. I coach little league football, and I was coaching kids that were mine. I was coaching before my kids were even born.
Nice.
But when I got involved was I was asked one time to go to a PTO meeting, and my daughter's teacher begged me to go, and I went, and nobody was in there. There was two people in there. And so I asked, why am I here? He said, well, today's election day, and you're now the PTO president. And I looked around, I was like, dang, yeah, they got me, right?
Yeah, they got you, eh?
And I served for 2 years, and it was interesting because I didn't understand the dynamics behind. I felt very guilty because for many years, I never attended a PTO meeting. Right. And they're important. They're important because you learn about the environment. You learn about the kids that your kids are surrounded with, the obstacles that are in a lot of people's ways, like Mendezville, where if you had a magic wand, you would have a school district a certain way, but it starts off just at the school level, Mm-hmm. And so after serving 2 years, I was asked by some teachers and said, Mr. Suarez, we would like to be represented by someone in our area. Mm. And so I got the blessing from my wife and my brothers, and we ran an election. We ran a good, clean election, and McAllen was very fortunate because the three women that I ran against were all qualified, and no matter who won, the community was going to win because we had good people running. Right. God decided to put this challenge in front of me, and it's been the best experience.
It's interesting you say that because the three people that were there before you, they were qualified, but at the same time, people talk to you and they want you to represent them, which is fine. One of the biggest things that I like to promote, and especially when I go on my political, I guess call them rants or political ideas, is being as objective as possible, and it's okay to have different points of view without having to get offended and get mad at each other. And I know it can get heated or whatever it may be. What has been your experience in that realm of making sure that you still have a professional and a good relationship with people that might be on the other side or running against you?
Well, look, the underlying fact is, why do you run, right? And if your goal is really to do what's best for kids, there's really not a wrong way to do things. There's different perspectives, but you cannot take things personal. I don't believe in personal attacks. I've run 2 elections. I was recently reelected last year.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
I run a clean campaign. I got some stuff thrown at me, but you ignore it. Now, for someone that loves to do this because it's in their heart, it is offensive when people get mad or talk to you. But one thing I've known, Rudy, is that a lot of the people that weren't on my side the first time around, were the first ones to ask me questions after I won and they needed help. And did I take offense to that? By no means. At the end of the day, we're here to serve the kids and the community. And so if Rudy didn't vote for me, but Rudy had a problem or a question about his kid, I'm obligated. The oath that I took is to help Rudy's kid. And when you put things like that into perspective, it makes decisions and it makes communicating with people just a lot easier.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and yeah, you're right. I mean, when if you're running like you said for the right reasons, once you're in, well, you have that mindset and you're as objective as possible to help people. I know one of the biggest things that um, in the community is I know PSJ. I know one of the biggest things I have is um, I go around different districts, watch different facilities. I know I even text you like I give you a heads up. Hey man, try to look at this because I visit one of your schools when I'm coaching. You might want to look at that. You might want to look at that. Um, how do you go about that do you, so I guess I'm starting here and I'm getting confused, but the biggest question to me is this: coming from UTSA, I worked at UTSA, I worked at Indiana State University, at Loyola Marymount University, and I've spoken to some people at STC, and it's well the president of the university is in charge, right? And as a referee, I go and I referee at different parts of the valley, and I'm getting the sense that the school boards are in charge, not the superintendent. And in my mind, from what I've learned in the past, is well, the school board is just there to monitor the school. The superintendent is there to make sure the school district runs the way it's supposed to. Am I way off, or what's going on here?
You make a hell of a school board member because that's what it's about. You have to let the captain run the ship, right? So our job as board members is any feedback we're getting to the any feedback we get is to be communicated to the superintendent. In other words, you won't ever see me or hear me calling a teacher saying, "Hey man, what happened to this Garza kid? Why did you yell at him?" That's not our role. You're exactly right. The role is for the superintendent to guide your district. Now, McAllen ISD is a perfect example. You have a school board that was recognized by the region, and you have a superintendent that was recognized by the region. That can only tell you that we're communicating and we're doing things right. My expertise is not education, and if it was, then I need to be a superintendent, not a school board member. Our job is not to turn around and say, Dr. Gonzalez, I want this done, and it's going to be done this way. Because if not, the training that these superintendents have had or have worked, all these years of education, they're in the grind. They know the day-to-day operations. We don't. And so I think that a great superintendent surrounds himself with great people. It's just like any business, right? I don't think the business owner is the smartest person in the room. I think he surrounds himself with smart people. I think that happens in school districts as well, and that's why you see a lot of us assistant superintendents become superintendents because they've learned and their ideas have worked and they're ready to move on to the next step. So you're exactly right. An effective school board member is one who lets the superintendent run the show.
I'm glad you said that because it's been bugging me. And, different stories from guys that I know from Bronzeville, guys from, not that it's Bronzeville, but, it's funny because a lot of the referees, at least a third of them are educators. And, we share stories, war stories of how do you implement this, how do you implement that. For example, one of the things that especially the guys that coach, we always talk, one of the very first topics, oh, you're a coach, where do you coach? I coach at this junior high, this school district. What's your stipend? What do they pay you? What's the starting salary? How is the pressure there of making sure that your teachers, your staff is all happy with their salary and the increase and all these things there? Because especially with that the new thing that what did we get about last year that the state gave us money for that?
Yeah. So look, and look, this is a topic that we can talk hours about, right? Yeah. But the bottom line is this, Rudy. The money is determined by the state, not by the districts. Now, some districts have the luxury. Some districts have the luxury of having more money funded because it's based on the tax revenue. And like McAllen, McAllen gets a lot less money than La Jolla and PSJ. Hence, we don't have the beautiful auditoriums. We don't have, because we don't get funded that way. At the end of the day,
Why is that?
Because the state of Texas believes that McAllen is very rich because of the property that we have. So every time you see these big buildings go up, our property value goes up. So what the state says is if your property value is worth more, then obviously you don't need our help. Well, that's not the truth. The truth is that if let's say a neighboring school district gets 80 cents for every dollar, we're getting 25 cents for every dollar. Now you go tell the McAllen taxpayer, hey, we need to increase your taxes. That's not going to work here either.
By the school district
community, for the school district. And so at the end of the day, we know that this is not only a state issue, but it's a national issue. Even now with the COVID-19, you hear on the news that right now, teachers are at risk and for what they get paid. Let's think about this. A paramedic, now that I know a little bit about this industry, a paramedic can go to school a year and a half, okay, maybe 2 years, a little bit less, get paid $60,000 to $70,000 a year. Yet a teacher is going to go get a $90,000, be in debt $90,000 to make $45,000, $50,000. What incentive does my daughter have to be a teacher, right? You have to love what you do. And so I think that, I've always said that if every teacher in the state of Texas would go vote and get their significant other to go vote and get a family member to go vote, they would dictate who's in office instead.
Yes.
There's a lot of voter apathy. We're wondering why are public school monies being taken away and given to charter schools. Well, if people were to vote and have an influence, these things wouldn't happen. And I honestly believe that not only is this a state issue, but it's a national issue. I think teachers need to get paid $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 because if our future depends on our educators, like I said, what incentive do you have to go get $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 in debt and not be rewarded at the end?
Man, you're talking to one guy, and my profession before this was campus recreation at the university level, and I love my job. And most people that are there, they love their jobs. But I'm in Los Angeles. I'm like 2 miles from the beach. My brother's a PE coach, and it's summer. I love to hoop. I love to play basketball. Well, back when I was 27. I could still play basketball, right? And I'm stuck in the office, getting a summer program ready, getting ready for the fall. But there's very little students for the programs I run. And my brother's over there, his spring break off, summer off. It's just and I said, wait a minute, this guy's making way more money than me. He gets all these breaks. I had to go get a master's, and I make less. So that's when I said, wait a minute, I love coaching. I know my sports. I love the athleticism. So I went into teaching. Now I'm a PE coach. I love it. Yes, the salary could be more. But I do agree that most teachers that are in the profession, we love our job, man. We go home and we're just stressed out. Like, okay, I got this to do, that to do. Even when I was a math teacher, I was like, okay, how am I going to get these kids to figure out this system, the procedures and stuff like that? So you're right about that. You mentioned COVID. Let's touch base on that. How does that go on?
If I wouldn't have gotten to the profession that I got in, my opinion would be different, right? So,
okay.
Rudy, this is what I feel, and I know it might upset some people, but I know.
Remember, this is always about no right or wrong. We're just sharing to understand.
I know there's a lot of coaches that watch your show and stuff, but I don't believe we're ready to go back to school until the medical profession is ready to handle more people in their emergency rooms, and that's just bottom line. You can criticize the virus. One thing that we do know for sure is that the virus does not discriminate. That grandma and grandpa, if they were to get COVID because one of our students got it at school, could possibly die. And that's something that me as a board member would have to sleep with for the rest of my life, and I don't think I'm ready to do that. And I think that the state is being very cowardly in how they're making decisions. They're basically saying you decide, and instead of remember, they get paid up there in the big in those big seats. We don't, right. Yet they want us to make the decisions of life or death. And to me, whether you believe there's a cure or not, they're still in the valley. There are still refrigerated 18-wheeler trucks with bodies in it. And every day the circle gets closer to home. There's someone that you know that's passing away. You get on Facebook, and every other post is an obituary or prayers. And I really don't think it's fair. I just got a text a little while ago that this, God rest his soul, but the superintendent in, I think it was Flower Bluff, passed away from COVID.
Oh man.
So this is real, man. And in the school setting, we're going to have to make some very, very tough decisions. And I will always, on this issue, I will always trust the professionals, and that's our doctors and our hospital administrators.
And you're absolutely right. My wife, she's a director of nurses at Mission Hospital, there for the ICU and a few other departments. And I mean, she is stressed out, and she tears up. She's stressed for patients that she's already seen that passed away. Every day, it's a grind. And I think people didn't realize how fast this was going to spread. And one of the biggest issues, from what I know, I mean, is the fact that they're struggling to make sure that they have enough people to help. The nurses, they brought in the nurses, and they had brought some state agency nurses. So it's very serious. And me personally, the way you mentioned, we're not ready to go back. I mean, there's some parents. It's funny though, because some parents are like, "Hey, I need football. My kid needs to play football," and I'm thinking to myself, Mike, I don't even want on a very personal note. Well, actually, it's going to happen. My wife comes in one day, right, during the spike, and she goes, just walks in. I'm in the kitchen getting dinner ready, being the good husband and father that I am. And she just comes and she goes, our kids aren't going to school. And you're not going to work out anymore at True Fit. I was like, and what am I going to tell her? I mean, she sees death every single day. And I said, okay. So right now we're trying to figure out what we're going to do once the virtual, because are you guys going virtual for a few weeks, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So one of the things about McAllen, and I want to go back to the football coaching stuff, but one of the things about McAllen ISD is we were heavily criticized a couple years back when every kid has an iPad and a Chromebook, and now we're way ahead of the game. So, and we've also received some word that the county and the city of McAllen is getting ready to put hotspots in the entire city, so every kid will have a device. So we're ready to go, and so a lot of it will be treated kind of like college. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays you have math and reading, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays you have this and this, but it's hardcore instructional time. It's not going to be like it was at the end of last year. At the end of last year, it was more like, okay, man, let's just get through the year. Yeah. We're coming back in August. We'll be okay. Now this is reality, and so. For the high school kids, I think it's unfortunate, but it's also reality what college is going to be like. But let's go back to the sports real quick.
I could talk about sports all night.
Well, I just tell you a funny conversation that I had with a parent, and he calls me and says, "Hey, man, my son really needs to play and this and that." And I let him talk, and I said, "Okay, well, let me get this straight." I said, we don't have enough ambulances right now to answer calls. Okay. So to start with, how are we going to get an ambulance to commit to every single football stadium? Let's start with that. And then if somebody gets hurt, the game doesn't start until another ambulance comes. So now you have to have 2 ambulances for every football stadium. But let's just bypass that part.
You're just talking about varsity right now.
Right.
Because Saturday mornings is jam-packed with junior high games.
Okay, so
sub-varsity.
Okay, so now here's a scenario, Rudy. Your kid's playing quarterback. Okay, he gets hurt. The coach can't ride with him. The trainer can't ride with him. And mom and dad can't go into the hospital with him.
All because of COVID.
So are you willing to put your kid on the field knowing that? That's crazy. Let me tell you, my daughter's a cheerleader. I don't miss a game, bro. You would think I had a kid playing. I'm watching my daughter warm up, Yeah. And I don't mean, and when Roll plays on Thursdays, I go to the Friday games. And if there's a game Saturday, I support all the schools. I mean, I love football. Trust me.
Yeah. Your daughter's at what high school?
At Nicky Rowe.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Nicky Rowe High School. By the way, they just got all 7 distinctions, so I want to
They
add.
got what? 7 distinctions?
So
Hey, that's a good thing. That's a good
yeah.
thing, you know.
I kind of brag a little bit, you know.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with bragging. I brag all the time. Don't worry
Everybody
about it.
always thinks I'm a little warrior, man. No,
I
but on a serious note, so those are
yeah.
some of the things you got to think about. So then I was speaking to one of the coaches, and one of the coaches says, "Well, what are the chances of us starting earlier?" And I said, "Look, we're lucky we have 5 games on the schedule, 6 games.
Yeah.
If you started early and somebody gets sick, the governor says that if somebody gets sick at the school, the school board again puts it on us." Has the authority to close down the school for 5 days for quarantine. That's for one kid.
Man.
Remember something, Rudy? The numbers that we're seeing from the county, let's just talk about McAllen because, I'm from McAllen.
Yeah, okay.
We got 22,000 kids that are not going to school right now. And you have 3,400 employees that are at home. Okay.
So that's about 25,000 people, give or take.
You're going to start mobilizing. You're going to start moving school buses, breakfasts, lunches, drive-throughs. That's just McAllen. Then you have Mission, FAR, La Jolla, and it's still the same 4 hospitals that we have here.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, do you think we're ready?
No, absolutely not. See, Marco, one of the things that I tell people, and we're all conversing about it, we're all having these conversations. I tell people the same thing over and over. We had a false sense of security when we were quarantined back in March, April. Memorial Day happened, opened up Texas. 3 weeks later, we spiked. Right now, data doesn't show kids getting COVID and that they fight it. No kids are out and about. Most kids are at home. So to me, it's like they're relying on this data, but it's the same thing that happened back in April. So you're right, though. 25,000 people. And people talk about masks and all that. I mean, I'm assuming you guys every school district is going through all the procedures. I feel that we're being forced to go back to school by TEA. How true or what is that feeling going on there?
Look, here's the reality: is that there's a lot of parents. This is tough, man. It's tough to talk about this. There's a lot of parents that need to work, and the only way they can work is if their kids go to school. And so, it's like it's a rock and a hard place. I mean, what do you do, right? And so. But I think the reality is we learn from other countries. We learn from what happened in Italy. We learn of what happened in New York. I mean, they were quarantined, man, and they beat it. And so the data out there shows, it's like everybody says, look, some people say it's not that bad. It's only 1%. And that might be very true, right? That might be true. But to me, one kid is just as important as 100 kids. And so if I know that a special needs kid that I send to school is more vulnerable to possibly dying because he got the COVID, then I'm responsible as a school board member because I made that decision. And so right now, do I think that we can beat this virus? No doubt. Do I think that if everybody would wash their hands and if everybody would put on a mask and everybody would social distance, would we be in the position that we're in? No, we wouldn't, right? But what does reality tell us? That the kid's gonna go hug another kid and then go like this. Yes, and am I worried? And maybe the kid's gonna be okay. But there's one thing that you and I haven't talked about is what about the faculty? There's one school in Georgia that already has 20 teachers out on quarantine. 20.
I see some posts about that. I guess it's true though. I didn't know if it was true or not because sometimes Facebook you put the memes and it's all false news. So it is true.
It is true. So now let me ask you this: where are we going to get the substitutes from?
Well, the substitutes aren't going to want to risk their lives for the pay they get. Come on, man. You know that.
So we got to somehow work together. I think it all starts with quarantine. It starts with the simple practices. But once we start doing that together as a community, I mean, you pass by and you see the flea markets. Están hasta el tronco, bro. And like I said,
I haven't seen that.
Have to work. I get it.
Yeah, you got to put food on the table, man. Pay the bills. It's a very tough situation we're in, man. You're in it. You're in the EMS business. My wife's a nurse, so we kind of know we're in the inside. And actually, someone reached out to me today. They want to come on the show to talk about their experience with COVID. This gentleman that A friend of my mom, she called me, hey, what are you doing? I want you to put Mr. Rodriguez on your live show. I'm like, all right, what are we talking about? He had COVID and he was out for like 3 weeks. He goes, the first 2 weeks were terrible, but I'll get him on either way. Let me, when we talk about coming back to school, I know I had one of the coaches from Mission High School, and he's from Mission High School Eagles. I talked about Mission Veterans, how they had their strength and conditioning. They had their strength and conditioning. I know La Jolla didn't. Did you guys have strength and conditioning, or what was the decision there?
We did, but we shut it down really quick. We shut it down right after the spike. The spike started coming off, and we shut it down.
Oh, so there was no positive. There was no positive. It was just, hey, you know what? There's a spike. Shut it down. Okay, cool. Do you know of any other schools that I don't know of any other districts that went on for a while. Do you know of any other districts?
I was working. No, I don't. I was working in Corpus day before yesterday, and I saw that some of their 4A programs had started already. And I think it's real unfair. They puts them in a real tough decision. I think that the state, somebody put a post today, and it might work in Mendezville, right? He says, why don't we just stop and we don't have a class of 2021? We just stop for the entire year. Pause it. Yeah. Let's not go to school for a whole year. Let's rearrange everything. And in a perfect world, that's great, right?
Right.
But he forgets we have people to employ. We have a state that mandates us to go into school. So, outside the box, there's a lot of logical answers, but then there's reality. So we get out of Mendezville and we go back into reality. So there's a lot of different opinions and different views, Rudy, but I think that all of us and whatever district decides to do whatever they do, we need to respect them, because never do I believe or will I believe that a district intentionally goes out and tries to hurt a kid or a teacher. I don't believe that.
Right.
I do believe that at the end of the day, they want to put it in the back of their mind, and this thing that many of us consider a nightmare, we want it just to go away. And so the faster that we get closer to reality is when we're all going to rest.
Man, and I'll be one of those guys. I'm a big conspiracy person or whatever it might be, and I would post it on Facebook. I'm like, this is a fluke or a hoax, and I gotta eat my words, because once we hit that spike and my wife, coming home and telling me what she can tell me, hey, there's no hoax about it. This is very serious, and I will say that probably would be the best solution, is just put it on pause. School doesn't go back, but like you said, people, you gotta employ us. I have to go back to work. I talk to a lot of coaches, a lot of teachers, like, hey, man, like, how are we going to do it? And one of the conversations, like you said, is like, well, where are we going to leave our kids? Like, during the virtual learning, I know you guys, let's see. One of the questions is, did you modify your school calendar by any chance? I know PSJ did a little bit. What's that look like?
No, we didn't, because we're not part of the District of Innovation. We do the state did give us a few days, but no, we didn't modify it.
So are you doing any virtual learning? And if so, for how long?
100%. 8 weeks.
Okay. The 8 weeks. And then everybody has to report back to school.
And then we just but like attendance will be taken every day. Everybody has to log on.
Right. Which is what we're doing over here, and I think most school districts are in the same situation. This COVID thing is tough, man. It's okay. So this was the other one, is when we're talking about social distancing and the 6 feet apart. Do school districts have enough room for desks and tables to have everyone 6 feet apart with all the 2,200 students?
I think you're a teacher. You know the answer to that question.
Hey, and the answer is no. There's not enough room. That's why you got to have some of those Mendezville facilities.
That's right, Papa. I just want to know where kids are funding from, because we need to test.
I don't either. But I know government people make a lot of money, and there's a lot of contracts being sold out.
I think what will happen, Rudy, is that we're going to transition, and you're still going to have that parent that has the fear, and for whatever reason, which we respect, and so basically what the state wants us to eventually do is do half and half. Have the option for them to go to school or virtual learning.
Right.
I think if you give them the option, I don't think that all 20,000 are going to go. Um, but I think that first responders kids, doctors kids, nurses kids, coaches kids, and they'll be the first one to transition in. And not to mention the psychological effect it's having on kids, man. I mean, I know my youngest boy, he's a social butterfly, man, and right now he's having time. He's 9 years old, and he's usually at basketball training and stuff like that. And right now, we have him pretty much quarantined.
Yeah, my kids are struggling too. You could tell where it's tough. Are you talking about the singer, the one that can sing?
Yeah, little Marco. Yeah,
Hey, he can sing, man. I saw that video you posted a while back. Yeah, he can sing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kids are struggling with it. They need that social interaction. I forgot who I was speaking to. I think it was Wally yesterday. How you need that social interaction. McAllen. So as one of the main reasons I brought you in here too was I wanted to pick your brain. We already talked about COVID. Is what do you attribute your success there in McAllen ISD? Because I mean that's a big, being recognized as School Board of the Year, plus the superintendent. Give us some things, some ideas or things that people can learn from you guys that you guys do very well.
I think McAllen is I think they're good listeners. I think that you listen to the community. You have to listen to your faculty members, but you got to let your superintendent lead. I think that's attributes to a lot of our success. Is if you chose a leader, then that leader needs to be the one making the decisions. And I think that McAllen has always been known for being the innovator. A lot of districts say, okay, well, what's McAllen going to do? And that's because we jump on things quick. And we learn. There's a lot of great things that PSJA does. There's a lot of great things La Jolla does. There's a lot of great things Missions does. And a successful school district can't say, if PSJA is doing it right, well, why reinvent the wheel? Let's do what they're doing.
Right. Right.
I'll give you an example of the special ed program, the Strides program that we have. We mirrored what PSJA did, but we put a lot of force into it. Now, I mean, it's a great program, and so I think that's what McAllen has, but I think that every school district around it has the same capability of doing the same thing. I think there's a lot of collaboration done. And I think that there's a lot of room for success. Remember, Region 1, which is the Valley, we compete against the other regions, against the Houstons, the Dallas, the El Paso. I mean, we have great educators here, and we have kids like the old movie Stand and Deliver. We have people with ganas here, and I think that's what allows this school district to flourish and surrounding school districts.
Yeah, and you're right. It's coming down to listening, and I'm going to make a comment that I get a feel for because I like I said, I talk to a lot of people across the valley, and it's all reffing. I learned a bunch of stuff just through the reffing world from the guys that I ask is there a point where some employees are afraid to speak out and reach out, or I don't think it's right for employees to fear their job just because they disagree with some things that might be wrong and they might have a point. How do you go about that to make sure that people aren't scared of losing their job just because they have a certain point of view?
It's a trust issue. You have to trust your board, and you have to trust your leaders, and not everything is done right. I mean, we make mistakes.
Right.
We made some decisions that maybe perhaps, but a lot of things is collaborating with teachers, with your teacher unions, with your organizations, because a lot of times they bring you some good insight and things that the superintendent can't be at every school. And of course you're going to always have a disgruntled employee, but they're going to be disgruntled, some of them, wherever they're at.
Right. You will have those. Yeah.
You have those that complain because they're so passionate about, they love what they do, but just somehow they can't get their point across. You got to respect that. Now, if you got someone that's out there bashing the district and this and that, and it's still not a reason to, you can't fire anybody for that. So I think what I tell any educator that would listen to this is one, follow your proper chain of command, and two is if you don't speak, you will never be heard. Um, and that means go through your union, go through your leader, your school board member. You could tell them, when I get some information or have an employee tell me things, I never give names, right? Because you don't do that, but you let your superintendent know so that maybe he should pass by the bus bar tomorrow at 8 o'clock to see what's happening, or he should pass by the cafeteria at a certain time. And a lot of times it's just things that can be corrected by communicating effectively.
Right.
Rudy, what happens in a school is the same thing that happens at a restaurant, the same thing that happens at a hospital, the same thing that happens in every industry. When you deal with 20, 30, or 3 to 4,000 employees, not everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But communication is key.
What is your stance on when I know there was a subject maybe like a year or two ago was, I don't know what district it was, but they were talking about stop putting things on Facebook and making the district look bad. There was some threats or some people got uneasy about that. How do you feel about that as a school board when you see somebody like, man, why are you making us look bad? The way I think is like, man, that's a good point. We got to fix that. But that's just, what's your perspective on that?
If I read something like that, I'm thinking there's a reason why they're expressing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I would see that personally, I mean, I'm not going to call the superintendent and say, hey, fire Rudy, man. But what I might do is inbox you on Messenger and say, hey, Rudy, is there something that we can maybe talk about?
Yeah.
But again, it's not our role as school board members to be disciplining employees.
Right.
That's not our role. Yeah. Now, certain school districts have policies in their handbooks and in their code of ethics. And if an employee for any reason violates that, then that's up to the superintendent or HR to deal with those issues the way they do. But to say, hey, the school board member said you can't put anything on Facebook, at least in McAllen, that's never happened.
Man, you just made me think. I might be breaking all these policies by having a Mendezville Live podcast, man. I'm going to have to look into. I might not have a job come September, October, whatever it might be. I really don't know. I mean, but of course, my goal is for information to share and everybody learn. I hope I'm not breaking any policies.
And like I said, I might be breaking some policies too, so what I'm saying, but my intentions are not to degrade anybody or to, it's like you said, it's more informational purposes. And again, I'll just make it really clear. These are just my opinions, right? It's not
right. Yeah. You're not representing the district. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I have is I'm very fortunate. Let's see. There's a question here, but I'll get to that in a little bit. It's because I don't think you can see the comments. I know I can see them, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But one of the biggest things is I'm very fortunate that at the school that I coach at, I have a very nice facility, PE-wise. I have my 2 basketball courts. I'm a big basketball guy. My 2 basketball courts. My weight room is huge.
Don't say that, because if I get any coaches listening, you're going to say, you see?
Well, I'll give you, it's about a 40 by 120. It's okay, Marco. But see, this was back in, this school was built back in 96, 95, a long time ago. We still had one school, the population, the taxes, all that revenue, whatever it might be. How hard is it? I always put at Mendezville ISD, all junior highs have 8-lane rubber tracks, right? Of course, it's not very feasible. I know PSJ has their junior highs with 6-lane rubber tracks, but of course, I understand that when the schools were built brand new, that was part of the $1 million that they were spent. I want to know, how hard is it, or how is it feasible? Am I asking for too much to get those rubber tracks, or what? Am I way off here?
Well, I mean, every district does things different. We don't even have tracks in our middle school.
I saw that once. I was like, wait a minute. I'm kind of fortunate that I have a track.
We're kind of running Jamaica style, right?
Yeah.
No, it's feedback. It all depends on budgets, Rudy. I mean, it's prioritizing and budgets. Remember, you have fine arts, you have other people always asking, and of course, you get those people say, "Hey, why is everything about sports?" You know,
Right.
and what people don't understand too is that a lot of times, you know, you don't want a kid home at 3:30. You know, any extracurricular activity is what the kids need to be at. You know, a lot of these environments at home are tough, and so, you know, and these educators, you guys, you coaches, you music teachers, you drama teachers, y'all are the next things that next to a parent that these kids have. You know, and so I'm very supportive of facilities. You know, but I also know that it's all based upon what kind of budget you have.
I will say this, though. You opened up my eyes a little bit right now with the 25 cents to the dollar and the 80 cents to the dollar. I think somebody mentioned it's called the Robin Hood Act. Yeah, so I'm thinking a lot of parents in the community of McAllen has to be a little bit more understandable that some of that money is going to other areas because of the Robin Hood Act. But I did not know the whole monetary figures. You know, the actual 25 cents or 80 cents that it might be. When it comes to football and, you know, one of the biggest, what was it? You're 6A, you're going to 5A. What is student looking like? What's going on there that the numbers have been decreasing?
So McAllen is landlocked, really. There's very little growth in McAllen. Right.
Who's at the top? Edinburgh? Edinburgh's blocking you north?
Edinburgh, Sherryland, and a little bit of Far. We can't grow anymore. So the city of McAllen, there's parts of our city that belong to city of McAllen, but Edinburgh ISD. Like Tres Lagos is all city of McAllen, but that's all.
Oh, that's right. I was about to ask you about Tres Lagos. I was like, wait a minute, that's from McAllen, but it's
so
a
on the
district.
other side of Benson. You know, you have everything.
Sherryland?
On the east side, it all belongs to Sherryland.
It's McAllen City. It's the McAllen
City, and a little bit of Far as well. So McAllen's landlocked, right? And then it doesn't help that you know the state is allows these charter schools to come in, and that'll be a different show, right? Yeah. I don't want to get into that, but
there's some charter school people watching right now. I see them on the comments.
That's okay, and I don't mean anything bad by it, but
no,
it's competition, right?
It's a reality. It's going on. It's happening.
And so you know, you don't have them. So McAllen has to share, you know, some of their kids with the charter schools, and then the lack of growth is allowed us to decrease. Now, I will tell you that in the past 2 years, we've had an influx of people from surrounding districts wanting to come in McAllen. We were one of the first ones to do the open enrollment from surrounding districts, and that's really helped us, you know, and that's why, you know, you have to have a school board that's recognizing superintendent, and you have to show surrounding communities that say, man, maybe we should take our kids to McAllen. You got to find a way. I mean, you know, 10, 15 years ago, nobody would have ever put on their budget, you know, advertising funds. That's unheard of. I mean, why would you ever have to advertise to go to a certain school? Now you watch the 10 o'clock news, and every break has a different school district advertising your school.
Well, yeah, because now there's open enrollment. Back in the day, there wasn't. Wherever you lived, that's where you went, right?
Right.
I will say the open enrollment, that's a nice little subject that we can talk about a little bit, or what your feelings are on that is. I have a coach. He lives in McAllen. His son is a swimmer, a real good swimmer for, I don't know what school. I think it's Nicky Rowe. I'm not sure. Real good swimmer. And you know, we start talking about discussing the, you know, why people leave or where they go, and the recruiting that happens with coaches, even though every coach will always deny, and I don't recruit. And he told me this. He goes, look, you got to think about this, Rudy. He goes, you got to think about this. He goes, you got 281 and Expresso 83. He goes, you got PSG Bears, you got Memorial, you got Edinburgh Vela, which is a big time marketing, you know, stereotype, whatever it is. He goes, you think people are going to come all the way over here? And I'm like, Coach, we're a pretty good district, man. What are you talking about? We go at it. Coaching. How do you feel about the open enrollment where it becomes more of the strategy of of stacking teams there? I mean, you don't have anything to do with that, right? But
no, I mean that was the purpose of it. Does it exist? I mean, we can't be naive about it.
Yeah.
And if that's what a parent thinks, if that's what's going to be make a kid successful, they're the parents. I personally would not move my kid for athletic reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I think that a successful. I mean, does he have the edge? Yes, but that's why there's a lot of different ways to expose your kids, especially now with the internet, right? So there's ways to and trust me, if there's a stud, La Jolla's had a couple, yeah, a stud. People in the valley know, and when they call a coach, and they'll call a coach from McAllen and say, "Hey man, you have a lineman?" Well, I have one, but you know what? La Jolla has a good one. I do think that exists because I really think that a lot of these coaches want to see our kids succeed.
Yeah.
Two reasons. Number one is because to say they're a product from the valley, but two, for them to come back. I know you had the Benoit brothers the other day.
Yeah, great guys.
So his father used to work for me.
Oh, really?
And I remember he came. He used to come with the paper and say, "Look, these are my boys. These are my twins." And the reason, and I hadn't seen them since their dad passed away. Yeah, and my son, little Marco, was at we were going to practice, and I knew this guy, and said his name was Kenny, and his other brother, and they were there, and one of them said, "Hey man, you not remember me?" I said, "No, man." He says, "I'm Kenny's son." I said, "Holy cow, are you kidding me?" But again, a perfect example of I was watching you show and say, "Man, that's a Valley product,"
Yeah.
And had he of been successful at any other school, yeah, but he's a product of La Jolla, and so going back to your question, does it exist? I think it does. Am I in favor of it? No, I don't think it's fair to the people that don't have the option to play where they would like to play.
Yeah, because they don't have the means where the parents might drive them in the morning. I know a big issue, and see with that issue also comes the issue of kids establishing residency, get in a fight with a coach, and then they go to a neighboring school within the same district or a neighboring district. How tough is that on you guys, or is that just on the coaches and the athletic director? What goes on there?
Yeah, it doesn't really reach the board much, Rudy.
Oh, okay.
That's a thing that's between coaches and I think for the most part, in McAllen, there's some ethics involved and I like to say that it doesn't happen because I'm a firm believer that our coaches. When we're talking about football, right? And there's other sports, baseball, basketball, soccer.
Yeah.
So each high school has their strength.
Yeah.
So will a parent strategically say, look, my kid's going to play girls soccer. I want her to go to Mac High.
Oh yeah. Everybody knows Mac High's like the juggernaut of girls soccer.
So if they're in a different zone, do they try to put them in middle school? I think so. And for the most part, UIL is the regulator in all this.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if we want to take it to UIL and let them decide, it's not a pretty fight up there, man. So you better make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's before you do something like that. So
yeah. No, and it's true. I mean, you're right. I mean, UIL and the coaches, they vote or whatever it might be. I know we had that great kid that I don't even think he ever went to the school he was on to. Maybe he might have touched base, and then he went to Duncanville, had a great success.
Oh, he was he started at Nicky Rowe.
Yeah, there you go. He started at Nicky Rowe.
Great kid. He ended up.
Yeah, great kid. He, I used to play ball with his dad back in the day in the late '90s, early 2000s, and I ran into him at TrueFit before I was shut down by my wife, right? And I said, hey, I know you don't know me. I'm a friend of your dad's. I'm a ref. I'm a coach. I said, hey, share your experience with me. And I got to bring him on the show. I don't know what the rules are there with college or whatever it is, but I said, how was Duncanville? What was it different, or what's the difference from the Valley? You had Coach Yebra, and then you went to Sherryland, and he just, and how I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's real chill, real smooth. Like, man, it's just so amazing. And he goes, yeah, it's just different. And that's all I could get out of him. That's all I could get out of him. I was like, well, okay. And he goes, but did you like it there? I was trying to push, he goes, yeah, I had a good experience. And, he's a very mellow kid. I will say this, though. I'm very happy for him that, he's getting his collegiate scholarship and he's going to go play ball. So, I mean, I guess it's a double-edged sword, as a parent, you got to watch out for your kids to make sure you try to set them up for success. And then you got the coaching aspect. You got the school board aspect, the district. I know I'm going to have Arnold Martinez here on the show, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff. And he's a little bit more outspoken. And so we'll see how much he talks about that. Politics. And you state about the state. I'm on a mission to inform the public voters to be as objective as possible and stop voting on a popularity contest. Right? And it's very hard, but I'm on a mission. And today I posted, and I did my research, and I said, wait a minute, who's the state rep, the state congressman, and all these things, right? When it comes to, and I had Ann Angler here last week, I think it was, and she's a big property tax person, and she goes into all this stuff. And you talked about 80 cents to a dollar, 20 cents. What can we do to help improve the district taxes or the property taxes, or what can I do to help people get informed of why people are running for school board elections, state rep elections, stuff like that?
The first thing you need to do, Rudy, is get people to register to vote. That's the first thing, because I'll tell you, the first time I ran, I registered 200 people to vote, friends of mine.
Oh, wow. That were not registered.
So that's a start. I always tell anybody who's never run for office that's going to run, look, man, those 200 people that you signed up, nobody's calling them because nobody has their number. They're not on any voter registration card. Nobody knows their address. They're not going to get anything in the mail because their address isn't known for being a voter, right? But is informing them, is putting the candidates up, putting the candidates on your show and asking them the important questions. Why are you running? What's the purpose? If somebody tells you, oh, because I don't like the way it is, I want to change things, it doesn't work like that. Reality, you try to change things, but you have to do it because you're passionate, right? And so, you don't go in there with an agenda saying, when I get elected, I'm going to do this tomorrow. You have to learn how to work with people because, Rudy, you're an educator. You can get a whole new board and they come in and say, this is going to be done like this now. And every teacher's going to say, well, who are you to tell me how to teach? Right. And so you have to have a buy-in, right? And so in order for them to buy in, you got to be on the same page. And that's what I've learned, like at McAllen ISD, our decisions are not always 7-0. By all means, trust me. They're not. Yeah. But when the meeting's over, we respect one another, and I don't criticize somebody for thinking a certain way or making a certain decision. I mean, I might not agree with them, but I ask myself, do I really think that those people that voted against me really want something wrong for teachers and for kids? I can never say that any decision that a board member has not agreed with me has been maliciously to hurt somebody. So you got to respect that. But the Valley has that image of política and palanca and
el system, los contratos.
And some of that is true, but or could be true or appear to be true, but is it? I'll give you an example. When I was running for office, they were criticizing me because my brothers own a restaurant and
Coco's. Is that Coco's?
And McAllen ISD was buying some, I think, had bought some food from them. Well, if you ever go to Coco's, it's not $4 or $6 meal, right? So and they're selling it for $6, and then they're waiting 60 days or 30 days to get paid $148. Like, do you really think that my brothers are making a ton of money off this? But typical Facebook post, if they were to put this up, oh, compadre, oh, it's only done, this and that. So they really have to educate themselves on does it exist? Of course it exists, but not everything is like that. And if you're procure and you sign up as a vendor and you're supposed to do and you do things right, then there's nothing to complain about. It's the hidden factor. So going back, I think that anybody who votes needs to be educated on why they're voting for a certain person. And any politician, or not even politician, but anybody who has a desire to run needs to be able to come on any show and just do an open mic and say, okay, what questions do you have for me? And what do I have?
Yeah, and I'm headed that way. I don't know if I go with the school board elections, but maybe for the cities, or maybe I'll do everything. Why not? People want to know. But for example, there was a story I shared with some of my students. I'm a big story guy. I like to share stories with my students from wherever I was at Indiana State, LMU, UTSA. I had David Burnett the other day. I shared the story where I finally ran against a track guy, and, well, he smoked me, right? He's a collegiate athlete. There was a story once. I'm in an interview at LMU, and they're preparing me for the interview process, right, to get a job. And the guy goes, so why do you want us to hire you? I said responsible. And I get all these adjectives, right? All these responsible and punctual. Da, da, da. And the guy just stops me. He goes, well, did I ever tell you I could walk on water? And, and I'm like, what a jerk, And because I'm, and he goes, yeah, I mean, I can walk on water. And he explained to me after he saw the face of distraught that I had as a young 23-year-old, 24, however old I was. He goes, when you say something like that, you're responsible. How are you responsible? How are you punctual? Give me examples. For example, when a school board member, not necessarily you, just in general, says, well, I'm for the students. Well, yeah, well, I'm for the students too. But this is the way I'm for the students. And don't get me wrong, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I got to get these guys to come in the show, and we're going to talk about their agendas. What is it that you're going to do that you're for the students? Or are you going to give me the 8-lane rubber track? Or is Michigan going to give me the 8-lane rubber track? Who's going to start spending the money on the students? Well, another story I always share with, I don't know how it is in your district, but as a referee, when I go into a coach's office, and the coaches are there, and we start talking from, the coaching role, and I say, hey, man, what's your stipend like? That's the very first thing I talk about. What's your stipend? And some districts have higher stipends, some districts have lower stipends. But then this guy says, I said, wow, my stipend's kind of competitive with yours. I think I get paid more. He goes, yeah, I get that. He goes, but we don't know what to do with our budget. He goes, we have uniforms. Like, we ran out of stuff to buy. And then I tell him, you know what? I'm glad you told me that. And he got kind of, he kind of like, hey, wait a minute. What are you going to do with that information? I said, because I pay taxes in the school district you work in. And I'm glad, I want to hear that kind of stuff as a taxpayer, that you're spending all the money you can on the students for they have that kind of experience. What kind of approach do you guys have when it comes to that budgeting stuff there?
Okay, so look, here's the reality. $220-something million budget. Okay.
Right. Which goes like that.
Well,
it sounds like a lot.
80% of that budget is payroll. Okay.
That's good for people to know.
So we got to manage everything else to 20%.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you, one of the things that McAllen, the budgets that our coaches have, they're tough. It's tough. They don't have the stipends that surrounding districts have. But hey, we make it work, right? I'll give you an example. Some districts have an $8 per diem allowance. Some districts have a $6 per diem allowance. You know that if both schools go to Whataburger, they get the same thing for the same price?
What do you mean the same price?
So and I'm just going to say Duncanville has an $8
Right.
budget. They go to Whataburger, they get a combo, cheeseburger, hamburger combo, fries, and a drink for $8. McAllen ISD goes to Whataburger. I get the exact same combo for $6.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because that's I didn't know you meant like $5 or because that's your per diem. That's what
So
they charge you.
the strategy, is okay. Y'all are asking for $1 more, and what does that get you? Now I understand when our kids go to San Antonio or Austin, a $7 budget ain't gonna get.
Yeah, yeah, it's different. You get to negotiate with the local vendors.
And some of these kids, for some of these kids, they're going to go into a district or they're going to go into it's going to be the only time in San Antonio and Austin, and so you want to make it an experience for them, So, but there's a lot of discrepancy and a lot of misinformation, really, that people think that there's huge money and that there's money under the table and this and that.
Oh, it's a big conception. It's
Yeah.
huge all over the place.
But really, you need to inform yourself. I mean, let me tell you something, bro. I was so confused when I got on the board. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What? I just got elected and I got to vote on a budget? Wait a minute. Hold on. Where does all this money go? And and I was a businessman, but I mean, we're talking, we're not comparing apples to apples. But at the end of the day, numbers are numbers, man. Whether it's 20 million or 2 million, their numbers are numbers. And if 80% of your budget is consumed in that, then But like I said, different schools have different budgets. I guess McAllen doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver because we don't have the budgets that some of the other districts have. But going back to your question about people running, you got to ask the important questions. And some there's some people who won't get in front of people. They'll dodge it, but for the most part, I've always been transparent. You have to be, and if you really serve the people, then like I said, you're always going to make a decision that affects one person, but somebody's not happy.
Yeah, I mean, imagine getting booed instantly when you report who the foul was on. So I know the pressure, not as big as yours, criticize, but I know a little bit of it.
The difference is, Rudy, that you get paid, bro. So
I do get paid. I'll tell you what, though, there's a few issues I've had in the reffing world, and I got to bring some refs in there. I'm going to invite Mario Reina. He's a big time guy there at McAllen ISD, and he tells me really good stories.
Not a big time guy because he's little, but he's big stories, yeah.
Yeah, and he tells me good things, and I always like to. I'm a fan of knowledge and learning from people that are running good things, and I'm even a fan of people that do it wrong or not wrong necessarily, but I'm like, we could do it a little bit better, right? Just and at the end of the day, it's for the students. Let me ask you this, Marco. There's two questions here that have come up with our conversation. Is one, when you're running for school board and when you're running for re-election, earlier I talked about, well, it's all for the kids. Can you give me some of the stuff that in your mind you're like, well, this is why I should run, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3, or why I should win, why people should elect a school board member?
I'll tell you what my strategy was.
Mm-hmm.
It was real simple. My strategy both times I've won is I promise to be a listener. That's simple.
Mm-hmm.
9 out of 10 times, Rudy, in any problem, whether it's school, whether it's life, people want to be heard.
Yeah.
So they want to be listened to. And they have a complaint. And a lot of times, just desahogándose, them telling you something, you've already solved half of the problem.
100% agree.
My thing from the very beginning, anybody who knows me will tell you that I don't say no to anyone in terms of talking to them. I don't back down from anything. And I never tell you, hey, Rudy, this is the only way to do things. Yeah. And so my strategy is what I've done. I've listened, because my success or our success is not because Marco was on the board. It's because we collaborated with our community, with our teachers, with our students, and we let our superintendent lead. And if you can pledge that and you can honestly go to sleep at night saying, I did it for the right reasons, it's easy to be a school board member.
Yeah. No stress. Just let the school board superintendent do their job. Just let them do their job. I will, and for the people that are listening, one example, and that's why I had that mindset, Marco, was I think it was at LMU, or I don't remember what university I was in.
When you say Loyola Marymount, is that in California?
Yeah, man. Loyola Marymount University.
where
Huh?
where Hank Gathers passed away.
Homa. Oh, bro. That place is Homa. The house that Hank built. I mean, it's a great culture. It's one of the most beautiful campuses in the nation
Well,
every year.
I stayed there 2 summers in a row. I was on the debate team in high school, and
Ooh.
I got a scholarship to go there. And when I remember I walked into the dorm and I was like, "Hey man, where's the air conditioning?" They're like,
Yeah.
"You don't have air conditioning." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And so they opened up the door. Man, it was beautiful. That's a great campus. But anyways, go back.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I went through the same thing. The very first time I get there, I graduated from Indiana State. I'm working some summer job. I don't have that much money. I was terrible at saving. I drive to Los Angeles in my Durango. I get there, they're like, I told them, hey, can you help me out? It's kind of expensive over there. They're like, we'll house you for 3 days at the dorms. Same thing. I get in there, I'm like, man, it's kind of hot in here, man. Where's the AC? Oh, just open up the window. I'm like, open up the window? And coming from the valley, like, you don't just open up the window. Give me the AC. Sure enough, I open up the window. I'm like, oh my God. What a great, and Loyola Marymount, it's what, a mile and a half, 2 miles from the beach? So you've been there. The other question I had when you're talking about this, or I don't even know, Hank built, oh, that's what I was going to tell you. The story about when I was at Loyola Marymount, I think it was Loyola Marymount, was the athletic director hired a basketball coach and some other coach. They don't make it, right? They're like, well, they're not winning, or they hadn't won. And I think I was there when he hired some other coaches. And sure enough, it didn't pan out. Not only did they fire the coaches, but they're like, hey, you as an athletic director aren't doing your job either. The only point I'm making here is they let the athletic director do their job. And if you're good at it, you keep it. And if you're not, you're not. And it's to reiterate the point that you're making. Let the school, what is it?
Superintendent.
The superintendent do their job. Just let them do their job and be the captain. But I don't know how many. I don't know how.
College is a little different. So let me ask you this: you as a coach, what determines a great coach?
At the junior high school, or collegiate level?
Let's talk about high school.
Yeah, we're talking about high school. That, you know what? That's actually another point I wanted to make with you, so people can listen to this, especially the coaches. One is, first and foremost, it's not about X's and O's. It just can't be. It's about building young men to be responsible adults and get them ready for the real world, to the intangibles, teaching discipline, responsibility, and all these other things that, all these adjectives through your program. Consequences, not drastic consequences. That's one. The progression, and there's a fine line with McAllen and other districts in the sense of how much parents help to where you can have a winning program. But to me, that's number one. What kind of rapport you have with those kids to whether they win or lose, they have a great time while they're there with you. That's what I think. That's what hype them up. You're their hype as a coach. You're their hype man. I mean, junior high. I remember check this out. My first season at Chavez Middle School. The athletic director's son is on the team, and he told me, he's like, hey, I expect, we're friends. He's like, you're here because you need to train. I know you're knowledgeable. You're going to train my son. All right, cool. I go 1 in like 10, 1 in like, or 8 or whatever it was, 1 in 7. But every time I had to make sure that they believed in themselves, that they knew they worked hard. We had to develop, we had to learn, and we kept going. The following year, as an 8th graders, we only lost 2 games. So I said, hey, you know what? And I'll tell you what, though, that first year, man, I had trouble sleeping. I was stressed. And this is junior high. I can only imagine the varsity coaches. But to me, that makes one of the major factors is what makes a good coach.
So let me tell you as a board member what I think makes a great coach.
Okay.
How many people are wanting to play that sport?
Mm-hmm.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Because if I have one high school that has 100 people participating in football, and I have one high school that has 180 people participating in football, there's a problem, right?
Right.
The second thing I look at is how successful are our athletes?
In what sense?
Education, because that's why we're there.
Right.
And at the end of the 6 weeks, when I do communicate with coaches, because I always call them, say, "Hey, coach, good luck today." And every coach will tell you that on Fridays, the football coach, I'll text them, "Hey, good luck." And Coach Littleton always messes with me. He says, "I know you're wearing green today," and but I always ask him at the end of the 6 weeks, "Hey, coach, how many did we lose?" We only lost 2. Ching out, coach. Okay. And to me, that's more important.
What do you mean you only lost 2 games or
No, 2 students.
2 students? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that we cannot forget the reason why our kids are at school. And to me, a successful coach, um, ask me what the score was when we played Edinburgh or Westlaco when I played. I don't remember a damn score. I don't even remember a record. And I know we won, went to Mackay. I will tell you that I remember that if you played for Coach Leal, Alex Leal, everybody wore the same chamois, everybody wore the same shorts, everybody wore the same socks, and everybody wore the same shoes. You were a team.
Yeah.
That's what I remember about Coach Leal. And so, like I said, a lot of these coaches, when all the things are in play, the winning record is going to come to play, because you can have the best game plan, and it's just like the education system, our teachers and everybody. If you don't have a buy-in from the students, the teachers, if you don't have the buy-in from the parents, if you don't have the buy-in from administration, if you don't have the buy-in from the students, I don't care how good of a coach you are, you're not going to win. What happens to pro athletics when you have all these teams with all these superstars? If the chemistry is not there, you're not going to win. Yeah. So to me, when we evaluate a coach, yeah, you can have 1 or 2 losing seasons, where you're not winning any games. There's an issue,
Yeah.
There's an issue. There's a pattern. So something's not, and the question that we ask ourselves is, are we as a district giving you all the tools you need to be successful? Yeah. And those are the questions that school board members should ask themselves, not so much as, oh man, we need a coach that's going to go undefeated. Right. Are we providing the proper tools so that any coach that's here makes not the coach successful, but our kids successful?
Right. And I think most coaches, for the most part, they know they got to win, but at the same time, through their passion, I will say 99.9% of the coaches in our profession, in the area, everywhere, we love what we do. We want to see kids succeed, right? But with that being said, the reality is W's count at the varsity level. There's 2 things that I wrote down here. One is how, for example, a few weeks back, I think it was with Kenny, it was some coaches lost their job at when Economides open, Juarez Lincoln, the social economics and the open enrollment and the recruiting that does not happen. At what point do you, as a board or superintendent or athletic director, take that into consideration? Or you're like, no, don't get me wrong, the expectation is still high, but those are factors that someone cannot ignore.
Well, 2 things. Number one is when a coach takes a job, he knows what he's going into, right? So he's got, he really believes that he can turn things around. But again, as an AD, as a school board member, as a superintendent, is it really win-loss? In Mendezville, no, it's not. It's how many kids pass, how many kids go to college, how many kids are successful, right? In reality, you're right. People want to win. Nobody wants to be associated with a losing program. And so, yeah, people lose their jobs. But I'll give you an example that I heard, a while back, and I forget his name, the coach that was at Donna North.
I don't know.
Went 2 years without winning a game but, but the coaches out there tell me he's a hell of a coach. Anybody would love to have a coach like that, and perhaps he wasn't given the tools to be successful, right? Because when the coaching community is telling me there's great coaches out there that just haven't won there, then you're wondering whether or not they have the tools. And there's no doubt there's going to be different levels of talent in different areas, but again, that's why the win-loss record shouldn't be as important as who's developing our kids. But that's just the world we live in. Everybody wants to win.
Yeah, and when it comes to that stuff about good coaches and the socioeconomics and the culture, I'll give you a perfect example. Shout out one of my favorite coaches sitting in a clinic with is Mark Gonzalez. Mark Gonzalez over at Juarez Lincoln defensive coordinator. To me, that guy should have been a head coach years ago. Years ago. I don't know his career, or I don't know if he's applied. I think he has. I'm not sure. But at the same time, people see that school, they're like, well, what's your record? And me being there, I'm from there. I grew, I would have been zoned to the Juarez area, the Juarez Lincoln area back when I was a kid. Well, you have to understand, some kids don't have time to play football, or they don't grow up watching football, or their parents don't train them, or Boys and Girls Club, or CSI, or all these other things that go into developing, right? That is something that when we're talking about school board and firing, I take those factors into consideration. But at the same time, like you say, you go into the job knowing, hey, you're going to change it around. You're good enough. One thing I am very critical about in a varsity coach's success is the junior high coaches and the elementary coaches. Bottom line, to me, if you're at La Jolla High School, you're not going to get fired once you start getting my crop, because that's how good I train my kids. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I've got a lot to learn, and I'm always learning, but I'm confident that I'm sending you a good group to where your job is not going to be at risk factor. At least the guys I coach. I think, how do you go about that? Because the big thing is McAllen is like, oh, the coaches are great. They have a great development program. And then there's always the parent side versus the parents in other areas. Am I way off, or do you guys see a little bit of that?
It's not a McAllen thing. It's just reality. I'll give you an example. Let's talk about Roma for a little bit. Let's talk about the mariachi program.
Oh.
Okay. They start at the elementary level. Their middle school mariachi are better than a lot of the high school mariachis. Okay. So now we have these kids that are developed, right? So now you have a Mackay, let's say the mariachi guy who's phenomenal, right?
Right.
Now he's competing against the kids that he's developing as freshmen versus the kids that were developed in elementary. So let me tell you, he's fighting for middle school program, mariachi program, and then eventually to elementary program. So yeah, no doubt, it all starts with the middle school and even the elementary school. No doubt. And that's why I was so sad when the Boys Club got rid of football. It bothered me because back when we were playing, Rudy, I didn't get to choose what team I was on. If I went to a certain elementary school, I belonged to that team. And that's one of the things that we're trying to bring back with basketball and with volleyball is that we have leagues for elementary school. So you do the neighborhood schools and you keep them together. I went to a football game a couple of years back when Sherryland was playing. I don't remember. There was an Austin school, but they were playing in San Antonio, and I was talking to a parent from Austin, and I said, "Man, look at these guys. They're like, I mean, they were just. You could tell these kids had played together." And I told them, "Man, your coaches must be. I wonder what practice is like."
Yeah.
He said, "Son, those kids have been playing Pop Warner football together since they were 8 years old." Yeah. So, that's something that at Cal Chelsea, they're one of the teams that they're known for having a great Pop Warner program. So, it starts in elementary. It starts in. You're exactly right. You're not far off at all. Middle school and then high school. There's some great middle school coaches that would make great high school coaches. And you'd say, man, why don't you move up? But in reality, you're actually hurting kids by moving that coach up because they're in the development stage. They're developing our players. So we appreciate what you do. I'm sure La Jolla appreciates what you do, in developing these kids, because that is definitely the foundation.
I'll tell you a story about that for the listeners that are watching, especially parents. So we're at school. I don't know what year this was, right? And that year I have a pretty big squad, big linemen, big running back. My receivers are fat, like that. Whoever gets a toss, we're speed, like. And I think it was PSJ, one of the PSJ schools. They had to, they get off the bus. They're gonna get their ice. No big deal. Come on in. We're all cool. We're all here to, make sure everybody's ready. And I see the kids walk in, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, yeah, I got this. Because of size. I said, I got this. We had been pretty successful that year. I said, nah, we should be okay against these guys. Lo and behold, they beat us. And I'm like, man, they stopped my stud, and the other stud. I had a few studs that year, so I'm like, what? When I started film, we were watching film. And the very first thing I noticed was these guys weren't hesitating. Seventh graders, they weren't hesitating. They were reacting. So then I get the phone calls and, try to figure out what's going on. Sure enough, Pop Warner, Taifa, they're 3-4 years ahead of the game. So they already broke that mold of, what do I do? They already know exactly what to do. It's a huge difference, man. And as a junior high coach, don't get me wrong, I hold myself to very high standards of developing. But it always comes into play the way you're talking about. They've been playing since a very young age. And I think the city of McAllen has a very nice program, or parents that, what kind of, seeing that you're a parent there too, I know there's a Boys and Girls Club. What other avenues are there that kids play there in your area?
Well,
in elementary?
You have CSI. You have those leagues. You have like the Hoopsters, where my son plays.
There's MISA. I know that for soccer. That's why Matt Kai's so good.
Baseball's huge here. Huge.
Really? Oh yeah. That Bicentennial Park. That's a very nice park, man.
Yeah, the one on 29th is a new one, and then the softball park that's one of the things is that McAllen has done is McAllen's really invested a lot in the youth to the city. And
McAllen has invested a lot in the youth through the city. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. So the baseball programs, the fields that they have, the soccer fields at De Leon, they encourage. It helps when the city is involved, and we have a great relationship with the city of McAllen. School districts and cities really need to communicate and be on the same page. I mean,
it's a win-win.
Yeah, one thing that I will tell you, one of the successes of our board has also been when we did change the board up a bit, the dynamics, there was a lot more relationship between the board and the city. And that's important.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I remember when I was a youngster and early in my career I knew Edinburgh when they had that summer Parks and Rec league, the summer ball, because I got to play in it and we won that one back in the day.
Are you bragging?
Excuse me?
Are you bragging that you won? Or?
Of course. That's just part of my personality.
Part of the Roadrunner thing.
Yeah, part of the road. I was ranked 3rd in the nation at UTSA flag football. It's just that's just part of the game. That's part of the gig. That's what you get with Rudy Mendez, baby. Either way, so I come in and I was like, man, Edinburgh has such a nice program in the sense that it's a Parks and Rec, city Parks and Rec, but they use the high school gyms to run the league. And I'm like, that's got to be something, they're together. When I never asked how it was ran. Of course, now they have that Vipers facility with the city of Edinburgh. So that's a little bit different. But I'm glad you said that for the listeners. It's always important for the city and the district to be in collaboration and communication. Right. Check this one out. This has been down here for a while. Is you mentioned the factors, and there's certain things that you can do, you can't do. People going out to vote. Is there any possibility, especially for like the bigger cities like McAllen, the Edinburghs, PSJ's getting up there, where residents say, hey, you know what? We want to change this Robin Hood Act. We need to get more money into our district as well. Can we change that by going out to vote? Or do we have to, do we need the right person to say, I'm coming in here to change this?
No, you need to it's a state issue thing, and as long as the certain party is involved, uh, it's not just a valley thing. It's voted upon the state, and
Mm.
a lot of the Republican view has been to do that, and I'm not giving my political affiliation because I'm telling you right now I'm not hardcore Republican and I'm not hardcore Democrat. I'm one that votes on issues more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think that's where we all need to go. Vote on the issues. Forget
I,
the
I,
party.
vote, I voted for a Democratic president. I've voted for a Republican president.
Yeah.
Uh, but it all starts with our legislative. It all starts, of course, with our local people that we elect here. But here, for the most part, they fight for us. But I don't know how much say they have at the state level. But that's all state issues. That's why I'm telling you, if every teacher out there were to go vote, we would control, and I say we, educators would control decisions that lawmakers would make.
I think it's very important that people listening understand that, and and people aren't listening, the ones that are listening, we need to get people out there to start voting, because I mean, the more I learn, I mean, I didn't care about politics. I had a friend of mine one night. I don't know where I was coming from. He invites me to this gathering. Hey, Rudy, vente, vamos, let's go. I didn't have my Facebook lives. I did none of that. I was just focused on my family and coaching and teaching. If anyone is wondering out there why Mendezville became what Mendezville is now, is my man J.L. Perez. He calls me up. He goes, let's go to this gathering for the commissioner's race. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, why not? Let me go check it out. I go meet Ever Villarreal. And I go meet Ricky Rod, who's a UTSA alum, right? Is it Ricky Rod, right?
I was
He's
up there.
there, and we start chit-chatting. Hey, what's going on? And, we have a good time. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I like this. I like this because every time it reminded me of my fraternity days. Delta Sigma Phi in the house for, what's our UTSA alum over there, Kappa Sig? What's his name over there? Our judge? What's his name?
Armando Marroquin.
Yeah, Mando Marroquin. Hey, this is a Delta Sig. I don't know about those Kappa Sigs. I have great friends that are Kappa Sigs. So I like it, right? And I said, hey, I like this. And I started getting to know a little bit more. And that's when the Mendezville and my Facebook Live started going. But that's one of the objectives with this is we have to inform the public that we control it. We can make a difference by just voting. And I think that Robin, I have a friend of mine, Ann Englert, and my boy in Austin, they hate, they despise the, what's it called? The slide, the water park we have over there in La Jolla.
Oh,
They just badmouth me. I don't know what happened. I don't know the gist. I don't know. I said I have no control over that, man. It's nice, when you see something like that as a school board member, what goes through your mind?
well, I'm jealous. I would love for our kids at McAllen ISD to have that. Um, but do I think it's fair? No. But that's why we get elected to these positions, so that we make the best of what we have, and I could sit here and complain and say, hey, look at everything that FAR has, look at everything La Jolla has, look at everything that Mission has, and at the end of the day, our job is to make decisions on what's going to make things right for the McAllen kid,
Yeah.
and what's going to make the McAllen kid a better student, and what's going to entice teachers to come work at McAllen. That's our job, so I can sit and mope and complain about La Jolla or PSJ or anybody else, but at the same time, I'm thankful that some of these kids that would have never experienced a water park can experience it. Do I think it should have been paid for with school funding? I'm not going to answer that question because I have a lot of friends of mine in La Jolla, and I respect whatever decision they made.
Yeah, they
I
made a
worked
decision.
inside that room. I don't know the dynamics.
Yeah.
In the public eye, it might seem, oh, this happened, but in reality, trust me, everybody has to follow the law, and if the law was followed, then you can't criticize it.
Yeah. And that's what I tell my buddies when they just go hard at me. I'm like, man, I don't know. I wasn't there, man. What do you want me to do? there's so many more questions I might have for you, and it just goes. We can go on and on. Any comment or any advice you would have for parents in your as you as a school board member working with parents and they're kind of like, hey, we got to work together, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's an easy question. To the parents, I tell them just to ask questions, get involved. It's sad. It's sad when you go to a PTO meeting and there's 3 people that are there. It's sad when you go to an open house and there's a teacher that only has 4 or 5 kids there, or 4 or 5 parents there. And we understand, a lot of these parents work 2, 3 jobs, to try to make ends meet. But at the end of the day, I think educators have to somehow lure the parents in. But those parents that are involved, don't be discouraged. You might not always get the answer you want, but it doesn't mean that you stop fighting for your kid. And always know, Rudy, that when you ask a question or that you're fighting for a kid, you're also fighting for the kid whose parents do not show up to the meetings, and the parents that don't get involved. And that's what I always tell people. One time we had a meeting and we were cutting a certain program that was very well liked by a certain group of people in McAllen.
Okay.
And it was packed. It was a full house, and we were voting against those parents. And I asked them, I hope all of y'all here next week when we're talking about the vocational department. Nobody showed up for that, right?
Right.
So, and that's what I mean. I mean, you got to have a voice, and your voice is not only for your kid, but you always fight for the kid that doesn't have anybody to fight for them. So to the parents, that's my advice to them.
What about students?
Same. I mean, we've had students that, they'll come and ask, some really weird things. I had a kid who we have a diploma program that's a very rigorous program, and he says to me he didn't know that my daughter went to Roe, and he says, yeah, we're here taking these hard classes, and the people at Roe, they have it easy. I said, oh, okay. I said, and why do they have it easy? He said, well, their classes and it's hard. I said, really? I said, well, that's weird, because my daughter goes to Roe, and I say you're busting her ass trying to make, good grades just as hard as you are. Now you chose this, you chose to be in this rigorous program. And he says, well, there's some great teachers over there at Mac High, and we need to have them here. And I said, okay, let me ask you a question, son. What am I going to tell the kid at Mac High when I tell them I'm going to remove the teacher there because I'm going to put her at your school? You don't think she deserves a good teacher too? And so, you gotta kids understand what they want to understand. But when you take the time and speak to kids, they'll understand.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, this kid now calls me all the time for questions. But you know what? It's because I'm able to answer him, and I answer him a lot of times, with rhetorical questions.
Right.
And my best answer to parents and to kid is, okay, let me ask you this, Rudy. What would you do if you were me? I had a parent call me, complain. Oh, this was a sports thing. It happened. One of it was a certain sport. I won't say because I'll give it away. But what they went in the locker room and they got the piñata and they started hitting it, and and somebody.
It better not been a Kyle, bro. It better not been a Kyle, bro.
No, that had the way it was McAllen versus McAllen.
Okay.
And so of course this kid records it and puts viral, and so the parent called me, can you believe this? And can you believe that? And they said the word FUCK and this and that, and what are you going to do about it? And I said, ma'am, what would you do if you were me? What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't be able to play next week, so that they won't be undefeated. So I'm going to punish every kid. If every kid was that emotional before a game, all our teams would be undefeated, man. I mean, really. So a lot of times, you answer their questions with their own questions. I mean, hey, what would you do? And but like I said earlier in the show, a lot of times as parents just want to be heard.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I'll tell you what, though, man. For people that don't know, man, especially football, man, those football locker rooms, it gets hyped. I'm a junior high coach. I didn't play football, high school football when I was in high school. I was a basketball player. One of my favorite things as a junior high coach going to those Friday night games is being in the locker room and just watching their focus, getting in the zone, and then they just go high and they put the music in. It's just like, man, it's like, man, I like it, but it's one of those things. Your kids, it's gonna happen, whatever it might be, as long as it's. But it was a phone thing. I mean, of course, we can always talk about that Sherryland issue, which was super, super tough. I'm sure those school board members had a tough situation with that. But let's not talk about something like that. What are the three most? I'm sure you've done great things. Is can you name two or three things that you're like really proud of that you've accomplished while you were on the school board?
Yeah, I think our scoreboard. We built scoreboard without spending a penny.
Really?
So that's a lot of things that people don't know about. We didn't use one penny of taxpayer dollars.
That's nice.
It was all done. We did it the Jerry Jones style. We had sponsors, and I think that's definitely something that is a trademark for McAllen and our legacy as a board member. I think the second thing was to choose I was fortunate enough to be part of the committee that hired our superintendent. I think that the McAllen has always been on the map, but I think that the superintendent has really taken us over the top and will continue to do so. So that's the second thing. And I think third, one of the things that I'm most proud of is how we handled this whole COVID thing. And when this first came out, I mean, McAllen jumped ahead of the game. We were in front of the media. We were in front of on Facebook. We were transparent. We let everybody know what we were going to do. We made the hard decisions. And that's something that I think that at the end of the day, at the end of my school board career, those are legacies that I think that I'm most proud of. And I was able to do that because we have a successful board and we have a successful superintendent and we have a community who believes in us. When you have the mayor, when you have the county judge reaching out to you and praising you, those are big accomplishments, man. I mean, you don't see that a lot. You don't see a lot of collaboration the way you see in McAllen. Those are big obstacles that I think we've overcome and that we've set the foundation for future boards at McAllen and maybe in surrounding districts.
And I will tell you this, and that's why I wanted to bring you on the show. And the major I have, I got a major in international business marketing with a minor in Spanish and a minor in, I don't even know what the other minor is. Wow. No, it's business with a minor in marketing, minor in Spanish. The word benchmarking. Businesses benchmark. In other words, just copy or learn from things that are being done well in other areas or in other businesses. I'm a big fan of, I like stuff that a coach is doing or a systems that are working over here. Hey, well, you know what? Yeah, I might not I'll take it. It might not be exactly the same. I'll tweak it to my systems, but I'm going to implement it because it works. And we talked about that earlier in the show. And, hopefully some people, like you said, in the surrounding areas might take some things that we talked about. You mentioned the scoreboard. I ran into you at one of the games. You said something about you're going to do the press box. Is that going on after all? No?
It's been voted on. It's been approved by the board. And our plan is to begin construction because I know everybody criticizes our press box.
Oh man, it's tough being a visiting coach, and we're all like this in there.
Well,
man.
The truth is, Rudy, the visitor side is not going to change. The home side will be. No, it's a long time coming, and really the main focus, Rudy, is to be ADA compliant. We have a lot of veterans, a lot of special needs people that don't have fair access to the game. They can't see from the bottom. One of the things that we're doing is the way the schematics are is to have a deck out there specific for our special needs and our veterans out there. And not only that, McAllen ISD offers for special needs kids, we offer the Strides program that we talked about earlier. And one of the things that we do is we get them licensed through STCC to STC in a photography course.
Oh,
They're
nice.
certified. They're either certified cake decorators, floral decoration, or photography. And we want to use that press box so that they have access to take pictures and to use the skills that they're learning. So our stadium to us is an educational tool. And so some might say, "Oh, you just invest in sports," but that's not true. That 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 facility is used for so many other things. We have the tech wars there. I want to start having our graduations there. I think it's a great thing. So there's a lot of the multi-purposes that things that we use that stadium for. So that press box is something that is needed.
Let, let, I'm excited because when I ran into you, you told me the section that it was going to be at. I'm like, man, it's kind of maybe close to or better than the one that Mission has or the one that PSJ has. I'm excited about that. I'm not even, just for Mackay Stadium, itself, or it's not called Mackay McAllen. What's it called?
Well, it's called DQ Field.
DQ Field.
Jerry Jones thing.
Yeah.
But it's called McAllen's Veterans Memorial Stadium.
McAllen veteran. Yeah, my boy George Rodriguez. He's a former Nicky Rowe alum, and he's like, "It's not Mackay, man. It's not Mackay. It's McAllen." I'm like, "All right, man. All right."
Now, Rudy, for the right price, it could be called Mendezville Press Box.
Hey, I'll tell you what. Once I start helping more people with my 4Life transfer factor molecules, I'll tell you what. I might go and I'll make you get a little phone call. Hey, Marco, remember that podcast we had?
I'm ready for you.
What's interesting is you mentioned that you're partnered up with STC, right? And you're a few months back, I even posted on Facebook. I heard that some school district, instead of going through STC, they're spending money and someone's making money. The fake or the horrible, and it's terrible, but it's a terrible stereotype, and it may happen, it might not. That instead of going through a free program, someone's making money off helping students when they could have it for free. My question here is, when you have that STC and what you just mentioned, do you pay for that, or is it just partnered up, or how does that work in the government and the federal programs and all that stuff?
The school doesn't pay for it. The school pays for it. The student doesn't pay for it, and it's done through federal funds and local funds both. And it's funny you say that because over dinner I had that discussion with my daughter today, and she wants to take Spanish at Nicky Rowe next year, and I said, "Well, why wouldn't you take Spanish dual enrollment?"
Yeah.
I mean, so we talked about it, and so the 3-4 classes that she's going to take, her 4 classes are going to be dual enrollment. So this year, she's going to have, at the end of this first semester, she's going to have 12 college hours.
Nice.
And she's a junior. So
cool.
She could graduate as a sophomore, and instead of, being $60,000-$80,000 in debt, it's half the price. Now, I know Dad's going to pay for some of the college.
Hey, I'm still paying. I don't know if people know this, but I'm still paying. I got to go get my credits over in Spain, and man, I'm still paying for that stuff.
Yeah, but I know she'll be the recipient of the Mendezville scholarship, so we're excited.
Hey, you know what? That doesn't sound like a bad idea. I think I might do that. Tax break? Do I get tax breaks for that?
Yeah, man.
Oh, you know what? I'll look into it tomorrow. Mendezville Live scholarship. So you're very proud, and those are some good accomplishments, man. And I'm sure you have many more. What are some of the toughest situations you've been? Maybe 1 or 2 decisions, and what kind of mindset do you go through in those situations that you can look back
at? Tough decisions, every decision is tough because you impact somebody.
Yeah.
It's true. Anytime you make a decision, somebody's not happy, man. And I'm one of those guys that I was brought up to serve, and I don't like conflict, man, at all. I try to stay away from conflict at all times. I want to make the world happy, right? I want Mendezville ISD. I want everything to be great.
Oof. Great ideas at Mendezville.
but you make decisions like the 1 year that surrounding districts had some big pay raises and we couldn't afford it. That's tough. And when people ask, well, well, how come La Jolla's getting this and we're not? You know,
Yeah.
those are tough decisions.
Do you lose staff because of that?
Um,
Maybe one or two.
you are, but if you live in McAllen, is it worth? So here you go. You make a $1,200 more. Is it worth your 3 hours of drive time? Is a day? That's 6 hours. That's multiply that times the amount of hours per week. You put pencil and paper to it. Is it really worth it?
Yeah.
But more than anything else, Rudy, I think you and I both know is that it's about where you're comfortable in life. I tell my daughter this, and I told my son, even my youngest son, is that when you wake up in the morning, you gotta want to go to work.
Oh yeah, big time.
And I tell that's one thing we talk about on the board is the last thing we want is for a teacher to wake up or anybody at McAllen ISD and say, I don't want to go to work. And right now with this COVID, that's happening.
Yeah. But that's everywhere. That's not just McAllen ISD. That's everywhere.
Yeah, that's
about the whole state.
Yeah. So going back to your question, every decision is tough. I don't regret any decisions I've made. I really, really don't. I think a lot of the decisions that we make are the direction that our superintendent advises that this is the way we should go. I think we've tweaked it. If he says, "Hey, let's go left," we'd say, "Okay, well, what angle do you want to go left? Do you want to go 45? Do you want to go?" So that's more of our role. But I don't regret any decisions. Every decision is tough, man, because like I said, you impact somebody. But if you really believe that you're doing things for the right reason, it's really easy to sleep at night.
Yeah, man, I bet. Yeah. Well, that's good because, like you said, you're not a director or a boss. You're a board member. You let the person in charge do that, which is the superintendent. So I see that, man. I commend you, man. UTSA alum. I met you through the UTSA Alumni Association. I'm glad I met you. Great guy. I don't know if you plan on going for another re-election when it comes up. Sounds like you guys are doing a great job over there in McAllen ISD. I mean, you got the award, right? Is there any other comments you'd like to make before we end the broadcast?
No, man. Just keep doing what you're doing. Inform people about different things that are going on, from coaching to taxes to school board members. Get a city official on there, and when it comes to election time, man, bring. I know it's hard, but try to be non-biased when you bring people on here. And let me tell you, I commend anybody who runs for office. It's not easy, even if it's not on the right side or whatever. My opponents during forums, I would praise them, and say, "Hey, man, thanks for running." Even if he's running against me, he was talking shit about me, I still praise the guy, But
yeah,
but it takes time away from their family, even during the campaign time. It takes money, it takes efforts. And my only advice to anybody out there is, if you really think you can make a difference out there, run. Get a couple of people to go back and support you, and good things happen to good people, right? So anybody who's ready to step up to the plate, don't criticize them, man. Commend them for at least putting their name out there.
For sure, man. It's funny because people have told me, like, "Hey, when are you gonna run? When are you gonna run?" And I live in the Sherryland district. I care a lot about the La Jolla district. I cannot run over there. I don't think my wife would want us to sell this house. And I've told her, let's sell the house. Let's go over there. But so one of the reasons that I have my Mendezville and that I started going on my lives was I've got to find a way to make a difference and inform people some way, shape, or form. So I hope it's working. I've gotten some good feedback. I mean, I'm not here to knock on people. That is the last thing I want. It's just more facts are facts. This is what happened. How can we learn from them? Like a coach. You got the first half, going to halftime, adjust and fix it. Marco, UTSA, let me see your Roadrunner. Woo! Back in the day, Planeta Mexico, that was my spot back in the day. It was a great spot. Thank you so much, man. You guys, hey, have a good night, bro.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, man, that was so insightful, man. That was so insightful. I really appreciate Marco coming on. I hope we learned a little bit. I'm sure we could have gone for another hour. I know last night we had a 3-hour one. It just, the biggest message I think I'm learning and I'm getting, and I posted about this, is we have to vote. We have to go out and we have to vote. We have to let our, and I'm not going to call them leaders. I'm going to stop calling elected officials leaders. Don't get me wrong. Marco is an elected official. But I think we need to stop saying there are leaders. No, we are the leaders. We are the voters. They are elected officials from our state reps, from our whatever else I don't even know. See, I'm still learning politics. But we have to vote. I think that's the biggest message from the Robin Hood Act and the budget and all these things. Guys, have a good night. Really appreciate it. Today's messages were brought to you by forlife.com/Rudy Mendez, Mendez Sports Training. Let me see. And that's about it. You guys have a good night. Later. Peace.